Hi, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi, welcome. My name is Anna and I'm a makeup artist from Manchester, and welcome to my little corner of the internet. As you can tell, I have more or less completely lost my voice. I feel fine, it's just the back end of a cold, it's just gone. I wanted to do a quick video today. I'm gonna show you two looks. One is a very simple almost kind of office to party look if you have an afternoon Christmas party. The other one is a bit more of a full glam. Both super quick, they both took less than half an hour to do from start to finish. So if that's something that you think you might be interested in, please feel free to keep on watching. Make sure you like and subscribe and do all that thing, because I really appreciate it. So yeah, keep on watching. So it's voiceover time. I have waited literally 2 days to do this voiceover because of my voice, but I think this is as good as we're gonna get. So I'm just priming my eye with one of the blush shades. I think this is the shade Cuddle Me, which is a very light peachy shade, because I'm not kind of doing eyeshadow as such. So it seemed like a good idea. Starting off with a black gel liner. This is She Glam. It's actually really good. It's nice and waterproof. So looking into the mirror, if you have a hooded eye, and just quite roughly drawing out a winged out line. Again, you could tape underneath if you wanted to. I didn't basically bother doing that because I can just wipe up any fallout, or any wonky lines can be cleaned up with concealer. I do apologise for the dog barking. But yeah, if you do have a hooded eye, make sure you look into the mirror while you're mapping out your line. And it doesn't need to be super neat, because we are going to smoosh this quite a lot. So don't worry if it's not the straightest, neatest line that you've ever done. I'm also going underneath. This looks like really dated, like 80s, 90s initially, but you know, have faith, trust the process. It's going to look really nice once we're done. Then going in with quite a flat smudging brush, and we're just going to smudge out again that line. We don't want any harsh lines, and just gently start smudging across everything. And then I use this is the Bobbi Brown shadow stick. You could use any kind of metallic gel liner or any eyeshadow stick. So this is like a bronzy, like a shimmery brown shadow stick. Just going again quite roughly on top of where I put the black liner, and then using a slightly fluffier brush, but still nice and small, just to blend out those edges. No harsh lines, just nice and smooth, but still keeping that kind of metallic. So it's very nice and soft, just giving sort of a wash of brown shimmer. And then I actually went in with a brown liner as well, because the contrast between the black and the brown was quite obvious. So I went in with a dark brown liner, just kind of in between the two, just to make that transition a bit more smooth. I would probably, in hindsight, do that before I went in with the bronze cream shadow, but you know, hindsight. And then just kind of smoothing out any creasing. Most eye bases crease on me if I leave them on, and I haven't set this one, which is why it's creasing. Doing underneath as well with the same eyeshadow stick. So just pop a little bit on and then just smudge it out, make it nice and soft. And then I just went in with a little bit of my bronzer, just to have a nice soft transition. And this is quite good because you can blend it in when you do your base. You can blend that bronzer in, so you have it even more like seamless. It's a little bit of trusting the process as usual. It might look a bit crazy now, but kind of once the base is on, once your whole face is done, it will look really flawless. Then we've got the classic drip. I do love this. It just looks so cute. Just tapping on a little wash of that beautiful sort of silvery glitter, just to get that lovely sheen. And then again, just going over the top with, I didn't put any more bronzer on, just the brush where I had my bronzer. A little accent lash. These are the Tatty Lashes. I think they are the Angel Eyes. They're super pretty. And it kind of goes with this style as well. Because look at that. We want that sort of winged out cat eye, which you know by now that I love. Just filling in that gap with a little bit of liquid black liner, just to make that line look absolutely seamless. And then a teeny tiny point on the inner corner, because we do want that cat eye shape. You'll probably find, I do apologise, my voice will probably disappear more and more as we go on with this voiceover. But if I wanted this video up before Christmas, then I'm afraid we're going to have to make do. Filling in the waterline, I use a dark brown again. This is by Beauty Bay in the shade Coffee. I just thought it'd look a little bit softer than a black liner on the waterline. So it's a little bit more natural. Well, not natural because who's got glittery eyelids, but you know what I mean. And also did the tight line, seeing as we've got the lashes on. Right, so I currently have all three animals in the bedroom, 2 of them fighting. So this is going to get interesting. Little bit of a glowy primer, just all over my face. And then just the collection Charlotte Tilbury dupe, just where I'd normally highlight. Just for some extra glow, and I'm just tapping that out with a beauty blender. If you've watched my videos before, you'll know I usually use a brush for my base products, but I had literally cleaned my brushes like 5 minutes before. So I was using the beauty blender quite a lot, just so I didn't have to make all my brushes sort of dirty and in need of a clean again, because I am lazy. So the Bobbi Brown Skin Foundation, very light coverage, but I didn't want anything too heavy for this. And it's a really, really, really good shade match for me. This is a warm porcelain, I think, which is just like exactly my skin tone. So yeah, I do love it. And then just tap it in with the beauty blender just to make sure that it's nice and set, because it can crease a little bit in lines for me sometimes. Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin Concealer. I do love this. It's so hydrating. So tiny bit under my eyes and just where I know I tend to need a little bit of extra coverage. And I also have some spots. So, you know, let's cover them up. Again, usually use a brush for this, but today we are blending it out with a beauty blender. And do you know what? I didn't hate it. Though I don't like doing my under eyes with a beauty blender, because you can't get in exactly what you need without really like scrunching it up. Very, very lightly setting with the Pat McGrath under eye setting powder. Also, I was watching a really good series on Netflix, which is why you can see me looking over to the side quite a lot. There we go. it was quite intriguing. Tell me you have ADHD without telling me you have ADHD. Blush bronzed in Hollow there for my contour. As always, it is my perfect contour shade. I think it was round about here. The Amazon guy came with a parcel as well, so I opened the door like this, like looking like an actual robot. As always, I contour my jawline slightly differently because I have two different people's jawlines on my face. And again, this is not the brush I would usually blend my contour out with, but again, lazy. Didn't want to wash my brushes several times. Sorry, I'm not sorry. So I'm just using whatever brush I had at hand just to start blending it, and then we went over with the Beauty Blender. It did give a really nice, the base actually gave a really nice finish going over with a Beauty Blender, so I'll probably do that a little bit more often. If you are curious what I was watching, it was called Smiley, and it's on Netflix. It's a Spanish miniseries. I think I watched all episodes in one go. I'm just going over it with Shady Business, which is the lightest kind of warm-toned bronzer in the blush bronzed, and a Pat McGrath foundation brush. This is the brush I always use for my bronzer, just because it gives such a nice finish. It helps just blend it in flawlessly. I do prefer a domed brush for bronzer rather than an angled brush. I use an angled brush for my blush, but yeah, I prefer like a foundation brush for bronzer, just because I just think it gives a nicer finish. But it's all about, personal preference, what works for you, basically. Quickly just brushing those brows into place. I decided to go quite easy on my brows with this look, because I thought, well, the whole look is quite nice and simple, so I didn't want the brows to be too kind of textured and heavy. So just filling in the gaps. This is the Glam double-ended brow pen. I think it's in taupe. So just filling in little gaps. And then I brushed it through with Benefit Gimme Brow. Shade 4.5, I think. It's possibly shade 3. The problem with these is that the shade comes off really easily once you start using the bottle. I think this is 4.5 because that's the one I usually use. And then the 24-hour brow setter, also by Benefit, just a clear brow gel. It's got a really nice little comb, so you can get them really nice and separated, which again, for a natural brow, I really like. Then just a little bit of setting spray, apparently just on one side of my nose. Decided to be festive, and I'm going in with a red lip, which is quite unusual for me. I think this is a Rimmel lip liner. Just slightly overlining, because I think the issue I have with dark lips on myself is that my lips always look really small. So I do tend to overline slightly when I'm wearing a dark lip. And then I decided that shade was too light, so I'm going over it with an LA Girl lip liner, which is a slightly deeper red. And then I think this is a Lime Crime. Yeah, it's a Lime Crime lipstick that I got in a glossy box at some point. It was the first red lipstick I could see next to me. And there we go. Nice and simple, kind of day to night. You could wear it with a nude lip in the day and then add the red lipstick later on. Second look is a bit of a heavier look, so we're going in with a proper base. This is MAC Paint Pot in Soft Ochre. It's quite yellow, dark, well, slightly darker than my skin tone. But it doesn't matter with what we're doing, so don't worry. We're not going to end up with yellow eyes in the end. So, eyes open, as always, going in with a dark brown. I'm using the Anastasia Alyssa Edwards palette, which tends to be my go-to for brown looks, because it's got a really nice brown, it's got a nice beige, and it's got a nice black. So it tends to just be the one I go with. So I had to work very hard at not winging this out, because I do prefer a wing shape. I always seem to do them. So I decided to do a more round shape. So I'm just shaping that out with the dark brown with my eyes open, making sure I can see the eyeshadow at all times, and then just rounding it off and like using my eyes like brackets, so you're going around the bottom as well, and then just quickly kind of fill that all in. Doesn't have to be neat, but just to get kind of a solid base. And then I went in with a clean brush and just smudged any corners. This just makes it easier when you then start blending. If you have smudged those corners beforehand, you could go straight in with your transition shade, but you would have to work a bit more. Whilst if you do this first, you already have started blending. You don't understand how many clips I've cut out of me just basically sat staring at the TV. It was a really good show. Can recommend. Don't watch it with kids around, because it's got some quite graphic scenes in of the adult kind. And then we're going in with the transition shade. This is like the beigey shade. Just half on, half off the brown. And starting to just blend that all the way around. Again, it doesn't have to be super neat, because we're going to go back in again and again, as you will see. So just we're getting this kind of the start of a blend in. Again, just to soften the edges initially. And then I mixed this beige with a little bit of the white, and went basically right up to the brow bone with that. So this is why I said it doesn't matter that the yellow is a little bit darker than my skin tone, because we're blending right up and just softening that out. And then we do all this again. You know the drill. If you wanted to start blending neatly straight away, then go right ahead. It will just take a little bit more work. I tend to prefer to just go in a few times with each shade until I'm kind of happy that I've got the right blend. I just find it easier to control what I'm doing. So I get a basic blend on, and then I tend to just go over all the shades again, possibly again. I do 2 or 3 blends with each shade usually. And then again with a darker shade, just intensifying that a little bit. And then just getting that edge nice and smooth. This look is very much of a trusted process, so I know it doesn't look great right now. Then I don't need any more base on my brush. I just going in with whatever was left on my brush. So one side per eye. You're going to do a little bit of a halo type eye. Not super neat, because I wanted these looks to be easy to do. So just whatever you've got left on your brush. And then I'm using the gold shade out of the palette, but any gold shade will do. Gold and brown just look so nice together. They look really classy and just seamless. And then we're blending that edge. And then I can play about them with the shape as well when I'm adding the brown. And then we're just going to intensify this with the black out of the palette. So just inner and outer corner, we were just adding a little bit of the black. Just to get a little bit extra depth. So we're not making it a black smoky eye, because I still want this to be very much brown. But it's just to add a little bit extra oomph. And then just blending those edges. So it's nice and soft. So it looks like that gold glow just kind of comes from within the eye. And just intensified it a little bit using my fingers. Using a black liner, I'm not doing a wing, just following the lash line. Just giving basically a little bit of a base for my lashes. Don't want a winged look, we are keeping this nice and round. So just going basically straight across the lash line with a black liquid liner. This is Beauty Bay, again, solid products. And something really good on TV. Who would have known? This time I am doing my waterline and tight line in black, because this is a little bit more of an intense look. So we're going with just a black gel liner again. The Glam line is really nice and waterproof. And then just smudging along the lower lash line. And then just added a little bit of glitter on top of the gold. This is Stila, which is fantastic, but it's almost dried out, so it took ages to get any out of it. And if you notice, I've just gone with the glitter just a tiny bit above where I put the gold as well, just to get that kind of shower of glitter, which just looks super pretty. I'm actually leaving in real time putting these lashes on, because I have never managed to put a pair of lashes on so quickly. Literally just first go, wham bam, they're on. So I'm keeping it as a reference for my children when I'm gone. This is my legacy. This will probably be the only time I manage to put a pair of lashes on this quickly and efficiently. I have no idea what these lashes are. I just found them and they were the right shape that I needed. Sorry, I don't know. I'm gonna guess they're either tattoo lashes or pound lashes, but I couldn't tell you which model they are. But yeah, that was like literally one clip of me putting my lashes on. And just adding a teeny tiny bit of the L'Oreal liquid glitter. Just because the Stila was so dry that it took a while to get anything out of it. Happy with that. So, nice big glob of primer. This is the e.l.f. Luminous Putty Primer. I do like this for a nice full glam look. It's quite thick. That's the cat, I think, bringing for her dinner. And then using the ABH Luminous foundation, my go-to foundation if I'm going out. Again, it's a really good shade match for me. And as always, using the HF Cosmetics brush, which is just absolute game changer when it comes to foundation. I love it with my whole heart. Highly recommend. And this time I have mixed the Charlotte Tilbury concealer with the ABH concealer, because it's a little bit more full coverage. But if I use the ABH on its own, it does crease quite a lot. So I mix it with a little bit of the Charlotte Tilbury, just to get kind of a softer, creamier finish. But again, you know the drill. putting it where I want highlighting, putting it on things I want covering. And this time I am going in with the HF Cosmetics concealer brush, because I just thought it would be too thick to blend with a beauty blender. And look how that concealer brush just gets in right underneath the eye. It is just fantastic. I do rave about these brushes all the time. I feel like I should get sponsored by her. Again, lightly setting my under eye with the Pat McGrath under eye setting powder. Now all my children are outside the room as well, so I do apologise if you can hear them. And then I did do something I don't usually do, but I keep seeing on TikTok people using a pressed powder to set their under eyes and then baking with a loose powder. So I am super lightly baking with the Effect rice powder. It looks insane. Trust the process, trust the process, trust the process. I'm using the Fenty cream bronzer in Amber to contour. I don't use this for every day because, as you can see, it's very cool toned. It's basically grey. So it is far too grey for kind of every day. But if I'm doing a full face like this and I know I'm putting other products on top, then it does look really nice. I usually use my Real Techniques foundation brush to do my contour. I wish I had done, because this took far longer than it would have taken with a brush. It's not my favourite beauty blender either, so it was just taking a while. And it's not the product's fault, it's just easier with a brush. A little bit under my bottom lip. I love doing that. It makes them look nice and plump and juicy. And then just in with a small brush to do my nose. Only really enhancing its natural shape, not changing the shape, not snatching it or anything, because I quite like my nose shape. I just like to enhance it a little bit. And as usual, I'm using the Pat McGrath. Technically this is a concealer brush, but it works so well for nose contour. And you're not my real mum, so you can't tell me what to do. I'm using it for my nose contour. And I think I'm doing a decent job here of not letting on how much more pigmented this was than I remembered. This is actually a stick foundation. It's the L'Oreal Infallible in, I think, caramel. And usually I would use about a third of the product that I, for some reason, decided to use today, which is fine. You're gonna see we made it work. It just took a lot of blending. Beware if you are using a foundation to bronze with, that they are obviously pigmented. So you only need a teeny tiny amount. So we had to work quite a lot. So brushing off that bake. You don't need to bake your under eyes. I just wanted to try and see what happened. Just beware, because it can go quite creasy. I'm only using a powder blush today. This is the Milani Luminoso, which is kind of my all-time favourite blush, because it's got that slight glow to it. And speaking of glow, I was quite glowy. I think it was that foundation, the cream foundation, that made it, obviously cream foundation, stick foundation, made it quite glowy. So I just lightly powdered down with Pat McGrath. And then once again, we're brushing these bad boys up. I've done a slightly heavier, I've done a heavier glam this time, so I'm going to do them a little bit more structured. This is, again, why I do my brows last, because I can then kind of decide how heavy I want to do them, depending on what eye makeup I've done. So this is the Precisely My Brow from Benefit. Again, I'm gonna guess that it's 4.5 because that's the shade I usually use. It's possibly 3. It's one of the two. I'm just filling them in and then using a spoolie right at the front just to shape them how I want them. And then I use the Got To Be Glued brows and edges. I much prefer the actual gel in the big tube. I was hoping when I bought this that it was going to be the same, but it's just not. Using a new lip liner. I think this is one of the Soph collabs with Revolution. Don't necessarily love Revolution, but I do like Soph and I like to support her. And a She Glam lipstick. And then decided I didn't like that combination because it was a bit too peachy. So I'm just going over, this is actually an eyeliner, it's a dark brown eyeliner. I'm just going over the peachy nude with a darker brown. I was just having one of them days where it wasn't what I wanted. I wasn't sure what I wanted, but it wasn't it. And then I'm just tapping the blush bronzed, the Cuddle Me. I think it's from the Bare collection. And there we go. A nice, smoky, sultry glam. I love it. I hope you love it as well. So there we are. Both looks done. Actually, both looks done and washed off. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it useful. Let me know in the comments if you're going to try either of the looks and which one. And let me know how they turned out. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope to see you again soon. Bye.